Pete, August 8th. It's going to be a big day in the history of robotaxis. Tesla's going to unveil Cybercab. What happens?
Well, Grayson, I think a lot of people will get very excited. I think Tesla's stock price will go up that day, and we'll go from there.
Does Ron Barron come out on stage and become the #1 cheerleader like he was on CNBC the other day?
Here's the thing with Cybercab, I think. Condensed version. We've heard promises before about Tesla and robotaxis many, many times over the years, as you know. What strikes me as different, a little bit different this time around, is we're not just talking about the future. We have a pretty tangible date in August 8th when Tesla is set to unveil Cybercab. But the devil's in the details. We'll see something on August 8th. When does it get deployed in commercial service? How good is the autonomy? Those are my two big questions right now. And I don't know that those will be answered on August 8th. So on one hand, this feels more tangible than promises of years past. But on the other hand, let's see what we get. And then we can kind of rank our excitement on a meter.
Do we get two vehicles? One Cybercab with the steering wheel and pedals, one without? And I asked that because the one with the pedals and the steering wheel would allow them to avoid getting this exemption to start testing the vehicles. And it could potentially be the Model 2.
Well, you could see Tesla also have something without steering wheel and pedals and try and go the Zoox route, where they just self-certify that this meets FMVSS and kind of roll that dice and go from there. But I don't know. That's an interesting thought, because on one hand, you have the Tesla-owned fleet that Elon described, and then you have, obviously, owners of Tesla vehicles that obviously are not losing their steering wheel and pedals anytime soon. So maybe it gets split along those lines. What fleet does the company operate? What is available on a Turo-like network? That's an interesting thought.
The market's concerned about the potential of an Uber rideshare network. RBC's been fielding phone calls about shorting Uber, shorting Lyft. I'm not sure how Lyft stays in business. It was funny. You and I were talking. I came back to the airport, and I'm going to get in an Uber the other day, as you're well aware. And I pulled up. It was $140. I said, "Ay caramba." I got down to the airport. It was $70. Lo and behold, I don't know. I dusted off the old App Store and opened Lyft. $71. So I got a 50% discount, and I got to continue my conversation with you. So I don't know how Lyft's going to make a business, then you throw Tesla into the mix. Does Tesla want to be the mobility platform of the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you talk about... Well, that's an interesting question. Let's back up. Elon said the other day on the earnings call that Tesla is an AI and robotics company. Do you throw the idea of them being a mobility platform of the not too distant future right in underneath that, or are those fundamentally separate things? On one hand, I think Tesla would like to be a major player in that autonomous ride sharing game. The costs of the vehicles remains an interesting question. If you get that down far enough, that there could be significant profit margin here. And we know profit margin's falling at Tesla, so maybe this is one way to correct that. But again, the devil's in these details, and after so many promises over many years about robotaxis, I'm kind of in believe it when I see it mode.
He's going to do it. If you listen to the earnings call, it was all about autonomy and robotaxi. Yes, does he want to be an AI and robotics company first? Yes, he clearly stated that. But all signs point to autonomy. I'll believe the AI first company when they introduce Dojo Cloud, because then you can compare it to Microsoft Azure, Amazon AWS, Google Cloud Compute. Then you're an AI company. Today, you're a mobility company.
Well, the concerning thing about the earnings call and the focus on robotaxis was Elon's a master of talking about one thing and getting us excited about one thing when there's something else we should be focused on. And that's the promises that they're going to bring a lower cost, high volume electric vehicle to the market. So I was listening to that. And I'm like, wait a minute, what happened to the electric vehicle company here? And that's a big concern, because we could talk about Tesla's future as an AI and robotics company or as a mobility platform company, but present day, they're an electric vehicle company and they're an automotive manufacturer. As much as some people don't think in those terms, they're very innovative in a lot of ways, but let's not forget that that's what the present business is. And the present business has been dwindling in problematic ways. And now all of a sudden there doesn't seem to be a definitive short-term time frame for that higher volume vehicle.
They are an auto business. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of other business inside that. You can use the alphabet term, other bets. There's clearly other bets going on inside. Let me throw you a curveball. Do we get to the point, this is Elon, so anything's possible, an announcement could come, where he goes on X one day and says, that's it, it's over, we're no longer going to sell you a vehicle. You can only subscribe, which becomes a glorified lease. And how does that move the market? That could move the market in a pretty dramatic way, because then after the subscription's over, those vehicles then go into that quote-unquote robotaxi fleet.
That would be a major curveball for the auto industry. And I think that would prove to be very popular with consumers, no doubt. So that day could very well come. That would not surprise me one bit. And I think it'd be an intriguing and promising new business model, especially as obviously the software becomes the value. They can sell you or lease you the hardware for a minimal price.
The software's key. I have an electric vehicle. It's from a manufacturer, and I said this before, I'm going to behave and do what my wife says and not name the manufacturer as much as I really want to. My vehicle had to go in for a variety of problems. It was in the shop for 8 days. 8 days. I've never had this happen. 8 days. Electric vehicle. They had to fly in. The head engineer from this company had to fly in to personally work on my vehicle. I had a coffee with the gentleman this morning. Very nice gentleman. With that aside, the problem was software. 8 days in the shop to diagnose what it was to update the software. Found a Model X. Let's just spell it out. Sexy. If I had one of the sexy fleet vehicles or the Cybertruck, I would have done it when it parked in my garage. I wouldn't have been in a loaner vehicle for 8 days. Software is fundamentally the game changer in where the value is. That's what this all comes down to, is the software.
And you obviously see a lot of traditional automakers really struggling to figure that out. Look at all the recalls related to software right now. And obviously Tesla's not immune to that, because we're seeing the conclusion of the long NHTSA investigation into Tesla Autopilot here in late April. And, on the other hand, of course, I think Tesla is by far and away the pioneer and trailblazer of the software-defined vehicle, and fixes can come much faster. Although Autopilot is problematic and we're not necessarily seeing improved performance, I don't think, or at least there's still crashes that are occurring on a regular basis, sometimes with the same issues. So NHTSA obviously examining how does Autopilot keep drivers engaged, and found that there's shortcomings in that. But that's one kind of narrow lane here that I'm diving into on the software-defined vehicle. But I think Tesla's no question well positioned to take advantage of the software-defined vehicle far more so than other automakers, but they're not immune to problems.
Nobody's immune to problems when you're a pioneer. They're building, not a new company, they're building a new industry. Because if you go back on my theory around subscriptions, Porsche tried it with the program in Atlanta. Cadillac tried it with their program in California. They tried it in Beverly Hills. It was actually interesting. I think the NDA is expired by now, but if it's not, okay. The Book by Cadillac program, one of the big deterrents, they're looking at putting the staging the vehicles to Beverly Hills Hotel. Wolfgang Puck, the famous chef of Spago, is a brand ambassador for Cadillac, or was a brand ambassador for Cadillac at that time. Did a lot of the catering at the Dorchester collection, had Wolfgang Puck at the Bel Air. It was the parking cost to stage the vehicles. It was one of the big deterrents to that. So if Tesla introduces an all-you-can-eat mobility platform, and this is human-driven now before we get to autonomy, human-driven, where you can buy a Turo-like element where you can then lease it out, so you can put it at, let's stay in the LA basin. You can go to the Central City Mall, very cheap parking compared to the Beverly Hotel, the Hotel Bel Air. That's $55 a day. That was back then, probably $75 now. The park at the mall, say $5. Okay, so you have that included in that. You include unlimited supercharging. Now here's the kicker. You include insurance. For one flat fee, no maintenance, no insurance, no charging, one flat fee. CPI is hot. Inflation's rising. We got the report today. Bank of America did a fascinating report on grocery prices, increasing the biggest stickiness of inflation. If a consumer knew every single month how much their vehicle would cost, game changer. I say that because I looked at a vehicle today, and it tells you how much it's going to cost to operate. And this particular vehicle was gas. $18,000 a year, it said, was the average cost to operate it, on top of the $175,000 sticker price. Tesla could blow up the entire auto market.
Well, there's two things. This is really intriguing, because I think Tesla has the brand cachet to pull this off, and Elon does personally, in a way that Cadillac and others, perhaps, that they don't quite have the brand to make that work. But American consumers look at their monthly payment, and I think there's any number of failed experiments where you try to get them to look at total cost of ownership, and for some reason that just doesn't compute. Certainly, look at the slowdown in EV sales as one example of that across the industry. Is clearly total cost of ownership should be lower with an electric vehicle, yet I think consumers are not yet that far along. They're looking at that monthly payment on their vehicle.
But here's the kicker, because I'm going to be me and have fun. What if you incorporated the American Express Rewards program or the Chase Rewards program, and you got points? You were allowed to pay for your monthly payment with a credit card. Maybe it's 10x points. Mr. Diamond, sir, if you're listening, put it on the JPM Chase Rewards platform. American Express, Mr. Squire, you could do the same thing, sir, What if you 5x or 10x the membership reward points? That's game changes. And all suddenly, your monthly payment, you're $500 a month. Now you're getting 5,000 reward points. Well, by subscribing to a Tesla, you're one step closer to a vacation, which, as we see from consumer spending, consumers continue to spend on vacation. Well, what if you get that vacation for free for driving a Tesla? That's game changing.
That is very intriguing. I guess I'm curious, is the prototypical Tesla customer right now, or the prototypical early adopter, are they focused on that value, or are they willing to pay for those premium experiences, services, vehicles anyway?
Why pay when you could use points? Every corporate consultant I know uses points for all their personal family vacations. And if you look at American Express, if you're going to pay for points, they'll give you points back. Certain programs inside of JP Morgan Chase, you pay for it, you get a bonus, 10x bonus for using points. They're incentivizing because it builds loyalty. More swipe fees. It's all about swipe fees. Well, what does that do? That increases the swipe fees revenue for the banks. And what do the banks do? They underwrite the vehicles. Because Tesla's not going to hold the vehicles on their balance sheet. Tesla could partner with Wells Fargo. They could partner with Bank of America. They could partner with JP Morgan Chase, and increases the swipe fees. It's all going to come down to royalty points. Look at the whole movement around rentals and apartments now. There's all these programs. Pay for your rent with a credit card, get points. It's a sub-economy. It's a real true sub-economy with hundreds, if not thousands of websites dedicated to gaming this. It's gamification.
That's really interesting. And you're right that I think the fewer vehicles of this fleet that are on Tesla's books, the better. And clearly nobody really wants to own the vehicles. So if you have the banks picking up the slack on that, that is a model that we've yet to see. But you could apply that then to let's say Waymo or Cruise or any other robotaxi company as well, who could theoretically not have that many vehicles on their balance sheets. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about robotaxis in general. Like at the beginning, I think people thought this was a ride-hailing model, but that aspect is a key differentiator there. It is more like a taxi fleet where the vehicles have to be owned and maintained and cleaned. So if you solve part of that problem, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal, and the software is going to create revenue. And then all suddenly, what do banks have? Some of the largest employers in the United States. So then you start incorporating the Tesla service or the ride-hail service into that as the corporate preferred partner for travel. Now you're starting to generate a whole nother revenue stream. You can go down this partnership route if you go subscription, and that's what really starts to generate revenue. Well, that's human driven. Now we get to the autonomy side. You factor in autonomy that you can 100x that revenue and that opportunity. So if, let's say you're at the downtown office and then, okay, well, let's move the fleet up to the uptown office because we have individuals that need to go, and you could run these fleets all day. Practical? It's true. But from a Tesla perspective, August 8th, they're going to announce it. But when do we actually see a vehicle go into production? So that'll be 24. The vehicle will go into production 25, 26, 27, 28. Or are you and I in retirement home having a conversation laughing about this one day?
If you think about the idea that I think Elon started talking about the robotaxi future back in 2016, 2019, 2020, 2021. I mean, there's websites out there where you can look at the list of promises. I think that anything is possible there. I guess I think it would be here before we're in the nursing home, but I guess you rule nothing out at this time. Like back to what I said at the beginning, like I'll believe some of this when I see it. And I'm equally skeptical of everybody in this industry who's made these big promises and delivered in uneven fashion, depending on the company. But Elon has given us reason to be very skeptical of yet another robotaxi promise. So if they're betting the company on AI, robotics, robotaxi, I feel like that's really risky. If I was an investor, which I'm not, obviously, I'd be worried about this pivot from electric vehicles to something that has failed to materialize time and time again. And now there's this promise of, well, here it is coming August 8th. Well, what do we learn August 8th? When does it go into production? When does it start to be commercialized? When is there an ROI? Those questions better be answered on August 8th and not in a long-term way.